Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Sister Linda, for those very kind words of introduction. And let me just say it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the Catholic Charities USA 2014 annual gathering. We come together as colleagues who make up the most amazing network in this country. We come together as old friends and friends just waiting to be introduced. We come together as a network united in purpose, in passion, and in a bond of working for the common good, no matter what the challenge. And because we are a sacramental people, we come together to celebrate our service to the little ones among us, to refresh our practice with a common creativity that will benefit those we serve, and to recognize the presence of God in all of us. A God who has entrusted us with the care of those who are closest to him, the ones who are poor, marginalized, hungry, who don't have a place to call home. We know this is a treasure that we cherish and a sacred trust that we hold reverently. So let this annual gathering of Catholic Charities begin, and let it be a time of joy, rejuvenation, and professional challenge to all of us. Let me also begin by saying a huge thank you to our hosts this year, Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Charlotte and its Executive Director, Dr. Jerry Carter. Already, and through these next several days, we will be treated royally, and so we want you to know of our gratitude for all the work that entails. To you and to the planning team who will put this great program together for the last year, we are truly grateful. Also, let me say a very special word of welcome to Bishop Zubik, our Episcopal liaison. We're delighted that you are here, Bishop. We look forward to your reflection and time with us. So this year, we are celebrating the 104th year of our national network. 104 years of working together to serve those in need in the most professional and faith-filled manner we can, as we strive to be the preeminent Catholic social network pursuing both true charity and authentic justice. This year also marks my 10th annual gathering as the leader of this amazing network, and so it has a special significance for me. For in a few months, I will be moving on to the next challenge of my life, as Sister Linda said, at the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. So, if you will allow me, I'd like to reminisce for just a bit. In the last 10 years, I have visited almost every state in the Union, and my office is full of mementos that local agencies have given me that are a daily reminder of the many places that I've been. But more importantly, they are a reminder to me of the incredible work of our agencies that I have witnessed. Since many of you have never been to my office, I'd like you to go there right now and begin by sharing a few of those mementos with you. First of all, let me say that some of the gifts that I was given were simply gifts meant to be enjoyed, like the gift of Cajun spices called Slap Your Mama from our friends in St. Charles, Louisiana. And this means that when your mama uses these spices, the food is going to taste so good that you're going to want to slap her, which is colloquial for give her a great big hug. And then again, while I was in Wichita, Kansas, I received a basket of local delicacies, and one of them was microwave popcorn on the cob. I kid you not. It had an actual corn cob in the microwave bag with a warning, of course, that the cob is going to be very hot. I did try it, but I'm not sure that it is an idea whose time has come or that it ever will. To get a little more serious, one of my most treasured items is this wall hanging. That might not look like much to you, but it is constructed out of wood and tin from houses that were destroyed in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans. So to me, it represents the pain and the hope and the resilience of the human spirit that I was privileged to witness after Hurricane Katrina. These two memorial bells came from that same experience. They were given to me by Miss Helen Brown of New Orleans, who collected them. Now, Miss Helen was our Volunteer of the Year in 2005, but she could not accept the award because of the evacuation of the city just a few weeks before our annual gathering. And during that evacuation, no one knew what happened to her. Several months later, she was able to communicate and let people know that she had been taken to a nursing home in New England. And she had had a harrowing experience of being taken to the New Orleans airport, which was the hospice center for those who might not live through the evacuation. But she did survive, and she made it back to the city. I went to New Orleans then to present her with her award, and at that time she gave me these two memorial bells that I will always treasure. This dove is from the Holy Land, and it is a lamp that burns olive oil. Originally, it came from Joe Duffy and the Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Patterson. Now it has an even greater significance for me because it reminds me of the partnership that we have forged with Bethlehem University. This university, the only Christian university in Palestine, is a beacon of hope in a land of conflict and challenge. It reminds me of the faces of the student interns who have graced us with their presence and never-failing smiles, and also of our agencies who welcomed them and made them family. Those of you who were in St. Louis for the annual gathering in 2012 might remember this ball. There we go. I threw it out as the opening pitch of the baseball game between the Cardinals and the Nationals. And no one was more surprised than I that it actually made it across home plate without bouncing. And it reminds me of the importance of our annual gatherings and our convenings and the positive energy that we always gain from them. This plaque with the simple word, there we go, Namaste, which means the God in me greets the God in you, the Spirit in me meets the same Spirit in you, was a gift from our agency in San Bernardino and its director, Ken Sawa. And every day, it reminds me of the friendship and the confidence which so many of you have placed in me as I strove to do my job. And finally, I want to show you two gifts that are really treasures in their own right. And the first was given to me by Catholic Charities of Rapid City and its director, Jim Kenyon. It is a depiction of Christ as a Native American wrapped in a beautiful Navajo blanket. It is a reminder of the great diversity of the people that our member agencies serve, and that in each one of them we can recognize the face of Christ. The other is a second edition volume from 1889 of the life of Pope Leo XIII, the Pope who began Catholic social teaching with his encyclical Rerum Novarum. It was given to me by Pat Wheel, a board member from Catholic Charities of Santa Rosa. It was actually written by her great-great-uncle, Monsignor Bernard O'Reilly. It had to be sent from London because that was the only copy left that she could find. It was not only a very thoughtful gift that matched the hospitality I enjoyed there, but a gift that causes me to reflect on the rich tradition of our faith and the tremendous resource of years of Catholic social teaching. These mementos tell great stories and remind me of not only the friends I've made and amazing individuals I've had the privilege to meet these past 10 years, but they are also a constant reminder of what I call Catholic Charities moments, when the promise of our mission and the power of our network to truly do good and bring about a society that cares for all God's children is made crystal clear. I suspect that most of you know exactly what I mean when I talk about Catholic Charities moments. When a family returns to an agency years after being helped with rental assistance and proudly shows off the keys to their new house. When a young man speaks about the mentorship of a Catholic Charities worker that helped him become the first in his family to attend college. When a child whose family situation is unstable bursts into delighted laughter when she's given a doll of her very own at a Catholic Charities shelter or child care center. These Catholic Charities moments can be large or small, but are always a humbling reminder of what can happen when people inspired by the gospel dedicate their lives to serving those in need. For my part, my decade at Catholic Charities USA has been marked with many Catholic Charities moments that I will always carry with me in my heart, some of which I would like to share with you now. The first will always be how this network came together to respond to Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. The city of New Orleans underwater, over 1 million people displaced. It was a scene that we had never seen before, and so we responded in a way and a scope that we had never done. Following the lead of our local agencies, especially New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Biloxi, we put together a response that has become the blueprint to build a renewed disaster response office. That was a Catholic Charities moment. Earlier this year, I was in McAllen, Texas, where I witnessed how our agencies are responding to the ongoing crisis of unaccompanied children coming to our southern border. When the scale of the situation became clear, Sister Norma Pimentel and her team in Brownsville, Texas, pulled together a welcome center in a matter of just a few days, a center that offers safety, food, clean clothes and a shower, a medical checkup, and information about how to get to their next destination and what to expect. Regularly, a trolley would arrive at the center, bringing another group of arrivals who had been on the move for several weeks, feeling exhausted, frequently discouraged, and maybe by that time, a little less than human. Whenever the trolley arrived, everyone would drop what they were doing, go to the entrance, and greet those arriving by clapping and yelling, "Bienvenidos." The outpouring of care for each and every one of those arriving on the trolley was tangible and inspiring. And for many, their response was simply tears. That was a Catholic Charities moment. A couple of weeks ago, I visited our agency in Santa Rosa, California, to meet with the board who were doing strategic planning and then to present an in-service for the staff. When Jenny Lynn Holmes was giving the report about social services, she told the board that now every client in the agency had an individual opportunity plan. After years of exploring the idea of creating these individualized roadmaps for people in need, it was so inspiring and gratifying to hear that Catholic Charities in Santa Rosa is pressing forward to make them a reality. And I salute Jenny Lynn and Brendan and Allie for making that happen. I couldn't help but think of the clients who will come away from a visit to Catholic Charities of Santa Rosa with a personalized roadmap with goals and targets to help them get out of poverty. It was a Catholic Charities moment. I could spend this whole speech recounting powerful and humbling Catholic Charities moments through my career, and I know that you have all experienced these moments of clarity and inspiration throughout your career as well. But the point of this talk, and certainly not the point of this gathering, is not to succumb to nostalgia or to only look back and focus on where we have come from. Rather, this time together is a chance to stand together and look towards the future, to change the pace, to set a new course, to address contemporary challenges and seize the opportunities presented to us. Of course, our network finds its inspiration and reason for being at the heart of Jesus' teachings. The Gospels are a narrative of how Christ kept reaching out to the edges of society, to the marginalized, and bringing them to the center, restoring them and including them by healing them, forgiving their sins, and by simply loving them. This was key to his ministry of transforming the reality of the world into the kingdom of God. 2,000 years later, the same message holds true. Pope Francis constantly reminds us to be witnesses to that gospel message in society, and his leadership exemplifies what it means to take the love of God to the sick, the suffering, and the rejected. He encourages us to go into the dirtiness of the streets, into the messiness of life, to be with the sheep. If we do this, Pope Francis tells us, we might end up smelling like the sheep. And my friends, please take this the right way when I tell you that you smell like the sheep. I know that when you go out of your way to make sure a client has a way to get to work, when you stay after hours to support a family in need, or listen to someone who doesn't feel like they have anyone else to talk to, you may not feel like you are being heroic, that you are simply living out the mission of Catholic Charities. But when I look at this room, when I think of the Catholic Charities moments that still stick with me 10 years later, when I visit our agencies across the United States, I see a network of dedicated servants who accompany the poor and the forgotten on their journey to hope and self-sufficiency. And from the Gospels, through our years of history as a church, to our last 104 years as a national network, all of our foundational documents challenge us to do this in new and ever more effective ways. When I accepted this position 10 years ago, one of the first things I did was to go back and read the accounts of the first meetings of the National Conference of Catholic Charities, as we used to be known, and the writings of our first leaders, Monsignor Kirby and Monsignor O'Grady. Out of a clear need in this immigrant country, they crafted a vision of the value of a national network, what benefits it could provide, and what it might look like. I studied the Cadre Report, the theological and practical formulation of Catholic Charities' response to the Second Vatican Council and the social upheaval of the 1960s. And closer to our time, I looked again at the documents of Vision 2000. My friends, we are an organization and a network whose foundation is the gospel. But these other documents define our specific organizational vision in terms that try to concretize the gospel to today's demands and context, especially as it relates to the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized in our society. Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI told us in Deus Caritas Est that we must be committed to the best professional development that is possible for us, because the poor deserve nothing less. And then he goes on to say that just as important is our commitment to a conversion of heart. And that is why it is so important for our member agencies to, at least once a year, spend time reflecting on the mission, on Catholic social teaching, on the values that unite us in our work. In gatherings like this, where we can come together to deeply ground ourselves in our shared identity as a network, we gain new skills and techniques to improve how we serve those who come to us. And I certainly hope on the agenda of every agency this coming year will be an opportunity for all of our employees to see the video message from the Holy Father. The challenge of any leader is to take the vision of the organization's founder and its mission and turn that into a solid path forward. Over the past 10 years, my understanding of and goals for our work together were not things that I came up with on my own. For the past 10 years, I have tried to keep us faithful to the gospel and to that vision which we have received from our earliest days. I thank you for walking with me on that amazing journey of putting faith into action. As we look to the future and examine how to build and strengthen our presence as service providers, there are several principles that have pointed our way these past several years. After a year of listening to you as part of our centennial year, 3 principles were formulated to guide our work. And the first is systems changing because the status quo is not good enough. Rather than a cookie-cutter approach that does not respect the unique assets and needs of each individual, we need individual opportunity plans, just like Santa Rosa is doing right now. A second principle is market-driven, because we need to engage the corporate sector to use their creativity to design products that are more friendly to the economically challenged. And because we need more corporate structures that directly impact the common good, like B corporations or community benefit corporations. And finally, results-oriented, because in order to be good stewards of the investment that our donors place in us, we have to hold ourselves accountable, not only for our outputs, but for our outcomes. As you've heard me say before, if our goal is to fill shelter beds, as admirable as that is, we have the wrong goal. Our goal needs to be getting people out of poverty, accompanying them on their journey to change the course of their life and to make the most of their God-given potential. We know that we are called upon to do more than just help people survive, but to help them thrive, we need to measure our ability to do that and to hold ourselves accountable. To me, this is not some discouraging goal with little chance of success. To me, this is an opportunity to be creative, to have greater impact, and to shape a society where everyone truly matters. To some, our goals will seem quixotic, chasing after windmills. But I would say we have signs of the path already. One of these signposts along the way is the Laboratory for Economic Opportunity, or LEO, a direct result of our alliance with the University of Notre Dame. I have to give special mention to the founders from the Department of Economics, Professor Bill Evans and Professor Jim Sullivan, who are not only widely respected in their field, but who animate LEO with their passion for this work and use the tools of social science to create a brighter future for those less fortunate. They are working with a handful of our agencies that are running innovative programs in order to analyze, quantify, and measure what works and what doesn't. Their results will have the ability to directly impact how we design our programs, can guide where we put our resources, and illuminate a scalable path forward based on proven results. I am excited they are giving the plenary session tomorrow morning, and they will be letting us glimpse how that work is going so far. Several of you are also beginning to work in the area of social innovation or social entrepreneurship. The cynical may say that this is just a way of replacing funding sources that are drying up or becoming problematic. It is actually an opportunity for us to do job development for our difficult-to-employ clients, rather than to depend on the marketplace that has far too often abandoned these people in their need. And it is a new way of envisioning how not-for-profit agencies can create economic opportunity in the 21st century. For these past 2 years, the Social Innovation Boot Camp, which we sponsor at Notre Dame, has been an intensive exercise to participating agencies to get needed feedback about their program design and a chance of success in the for-profit world. Some ideas that have been brought forward are maintenance services, which of course all of our agencies need, furniture exchanges, a knitting cooperative, a farming cooperative, and now CRISP, a mobile grocery delivery service in the food deserts of Chicago. I salute all of you. This requires creativity, risk, and financial investment, but it is certainly worth the payoff in people's lives. These examples and many others reassure me that the Catholic Charities Network is well positioned for the future. Some might grow discouraged that we haven't made more progress reducing poverty or creating a society where all can thrive. There is doubtless much work that remains to be done. But I firmly believe that in this time of crisis, with 45 million Americans living at or below the federal poverty line, it can be and already is a time of great creativity and energy for the long road ahead. But in all of this, we must remember that our charter way back in 1910 called on us to be the attorney for the poor. Throughout our history, the Catholic Charities movement has taken these words very seriously and tried to be the voice for those who have no voice in our society. We can be rightly proud that our efforts in previous decades helped shape and pass the Social Security Act and the Housing Act. Today, we continue to work with both sides of the aisle to pass legislation that improves the way that we provide for those in need. It was very gratifying to hear Representative Paul Ryan in several media interviews credit Catholic Charities with convincing him of the value and need for case management. Perhaps we are living in a different Catholic Charities moment, one when our network can help lead the way in cutting through the political polarization and come forth with new ideas and shape a society in which every individual is treated with the dignity of a child of God and given the opportunity to truly thrive. We walk on the shoulders of the giants who have led us in the past. I would say to you that success will be ours if we stay faithful to our mission. Success will be ours if we recognize that God's hand is at work in all that we do. As I have done so often, let me end by quoting Archbishop John Ireland of St. Paul, who at the turn of the 20th century reminded his fellow bishops that we need not spend a lot of time fretting about what the future will bring, because in the end, as we will it, so shall the future be. As we will it, so shall the future be. My friends, please know that all of you who are here and everyone in the Catholic Charities Network will always remain close to my heart and in my prayers. Thank you. May God bless you and your work, and please know that I have treasured every Catholic Charities moment that we have shared together. And may God, who has begun this great work in us, bring it to fruition. Thank you.